Welcome to Pie Guys Pick'em. It is week 17, or the remainder of it in the NFL. As you can see, I am not on site. We are away again this weekend. Been a busy weekend for that. In terms of the Christmas games, just a quick recap. We'll go through that, and then we'll run through these games as quick as possible. I know it's Boxing Day; people are shopping. Hope you took time out of your day to. I thank you if you took time today to listen to the show. I know you're very busy. Maybe you're browsing Amazon. This is on in the background, et cetera, et cetera. But quick recap: the Lions eliminated. You talk about the first game, the Cowboys. Let's talk about the first game because Cowboys scored 24 points in the first half, and then 6 points in the second half. Aubrey misses a field goal. We lose the team total and the spread on a missed field goal from one of the most consistent kickers in the league. Bad beat in my opinion. 24 at half. We couldn't get to 31. So I said it on the show. I said if it's 30, I live with it. I wanted 29 and a half. We got 30 and a half. So be it. Take the L. Those half points matter. And of course the spread losses. Well, if you got the early number though, congratulations with the Cowboys. The second game, of course, the Lions, 5 turnovers, 2 fumbles, and 3 picks. Eliminate themselves from the playoffs, which means Green Bay clinches a playoff spot, and their game coming up tomorrow doesn't mean as much, something to keep note of. The Vikings defense showed up as I expected. They would at home on Christmas. And shout out to Seth Rollins for calling the Vikings money line on the Netflix broadcast. I didn't have the balls, but the under cashed easily. A 23-10. The Detroit defensive touchdown. It was Minnesota getting all the turnovers. Max Brosmer was serviceable. Anyway, he didn't lose the game for them. So I don't know if he was serviceable, but he didn't lose the game. So, and then of course, the Chiefs in a dogfight. Or the Broncos in a dogfight with the Chiefs. The Ludicon didn't do much, but the Chiefs defense, much as the Vikings defense, played very well. They were running the ball a little bit. They got the touchdown on the early score. Held the lead at halftime. Chiefs first half money line cashes at a big plus price. I wonder what that number was. And then of course the Broncos come back to win in the end to hold on to they still have the 1 seed in their hands. Of course, they still have not clinched the division because they play the Chargers week 18 next week. If the Chargers were to win tomorrow and next week, they would win the AFC West because they would have the tiebreaker of being 6-0 in the division. I can't remember last time a team that wasn't in the AFC East went 6-0 in the division, but it would be quite a feat. And we'll start with that game. Texans-Chargers. Chargers 1.5, 2-point home favorites. The total 39.5, a little bit low, but two teams known for their defense. The Chargers aren't exactly scoring in numbers, and the Texans, well, they struggled to beat the Las Vegas Raiders last week. Of all teams, got outgained by 1.5 yards per play by the Las Vegas Raiders. It was a flat spot, but I couldn't take Vegas. There's no way you can bet on the Las Vegas Raiders. Or last week anyways, after I couldn't bet on them. I hope somebody did on the spread anyways, but I couldn't bet on them after the 31-0 drubbing. Off a shutout. I was 1 week too early on the Raiders, of course. They had 145 yards on the ground. Ashton Genty was fantastic, but of course, and they outgained the Texans, the Las Vegas Raiders, but of course, Geno Smith threw his interception, and the Raiders had 9 penalties, which enabled the Texans to come back and win that game. The Texans' offensive line held up well against Max Crosby and company. Starting right tackle for the Texans, Trent Brown is out. He has been announced on starting left tackle, Aaron Ezeri. He is questionable, so they could be without both left tackles. There might be an update on that. I can check. Oh, no, because their injury reports are already out. So I believe we'll find out at game time on the left tackle. But Texans could be without both starting tackles, and that could be a problem with Chargers and their decent pass rush coming to town. The offensive line, like I said, it held up against Max Crosby last week. They didn't allow C.J. Stroud was sacked 0 times, and they sacked the Raiders quarterback 3 times, which is honestly, for the Texans D-line against that horrible offensive lineup, not very good, in my opinion. They should have done more. Jamar Jordan got a lot of the carries. Woody Marks was hurt. Woody Marks was expected to be back for this one, though. And the Chargers offense exploded against the Dallas Cowboys. 452 yards, 34 points, 7.3 yards per play. Justin Herbert is playing like an MVP. 23 of 39, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He looks like he's back after that wrist surgery he had a few weeks ago on his left wrist. He was a little bit off, and you could tell for 2 games. They still managed to win both games. 7 of 11 on third down. Herbert's using his legs more. Since that wrist surgery, he's using his legs more. So maybe there was something with he was worried about bracing himself in terms of the his wrist. Possible, but we'll see. Finally, the books, they were underdogs to the Dallas Cowboys. They were underdogs to the Kansas City Chiefs. They won out. I bet them both times. They weren't even I wasn't even thinking about it. I was probably just going to pass the game, but I'm just like, well, I mean, the Chargers are better than this, and they have been better than the market rate. Now they're favorites. So, it's a little bit of a different role, but not big favorites. They did allow 6.1 yards per play to the Cowboys, but held them to 1 of 3 in the red zone. Tackle Trey Pipkins should be back for this one. That's good news. And guard Mekhi Beckham is questionable, and he may play. So the Chargers, the concern for this matchup, obviously, is the Texans D-line against the banged-up Chargers offensive line. They could be getting reinforcements back. And, of course, I have completely forgot this, but this is playoff revenge. The Texans eliminated the Chargers last year. The Texans have not clinched a playoff spot. They can still be past the only team in the AFC who that isn't in the AFC North that has not clinched a playoff spot, because the Colts are 2 games back of them, and the Colts had the 5th tiebreaker. If the Colts were to win out and the Texans were to lose out, of course the Texans play the Colts next week. So if the Texans lose and the Colts beat Jacksonville, next week would be for the final wild card spot. Or if Houston wins and the Jags somehow lose to the Titans, Houston could still win the division. But the Jags will be in the playoffs regardless, because then Indy would have lost. But it's interesting that I thought the Colts were eliminated. They're not. So this game does matter for Houston. That being said, I'm on the Chargers again. I'm going to ride. I bet them last 2 weeks. It didn't look appetizing, but the Chargers, that's kind of what they are. They're like a great team to bet. They're not flashy. They're not fancy. They got a good quarterback, good coach, good defense. Offensive line's a little banged up, but they're getting some guys back. And I think maybe we do see that that matchup next week, Texans Colts. I mean, that would be a lot better than Bucks Panthers for Sunday Night Football. So I am on the Chargers here, -1.5. And I want to caution everybody, the bets this week, I don't have one single full unit bet. The next 2 weeks is going to be lighter card, lower units, just because of the variance. Who's playing, who's in, who's out, teams eliminated, most teams being eliminated, most teams clinching playoff spots. Seeding, yes, is important, but outside of the 1 seed, a lot of teams may not, may elect to rest players at the last minute and forego seeding chances. So be careful these next 2 weeks. But I am on the Chargers here, -1.5 tomorrow for the matinee game. And the night game tomorrow, which this honestly, I think they flip-flopped these games. They should have left them. I mean, Texans Chargers looks like the better game right now, because just announced a few minutes ago, Jordan Love is out for the Green Bay Packers, and Lamar Jackson's doubtful. I don't think he's going to play. So it looks like it's going to be Tyler Huntley against maybe Malik Willis, because Malik Willis was on the injury report with an illness. So that's concerning, but I think Malik Willis will play. He was limited all week. We'll see. I bet the Ravens at 4.5, because as soon as the Lions had lost that game, because the Packers clinched a playoff spot, sure, they could still catch the Chicago Bears, but you need to win out and you need the Bears to lose out. And both your game, like the Lions aren't going to lay down. against the Bears. But the Vikings at the same time, you saw what the Vikings did last week. They're going to be at home again against Green Bay. It could be Malik Willis. It could be the third string guy. Who knows? I don't even know who the third string guy is. I didn't even look that up. I didn't even consider. I probably should have. But injuries for the Packers, and they're banged up on the offensive line too. Zach Tom and the backup center, Sean Ryan, questionable heading into this one. Because obviously their center is on IR. So now you might be on your third string center, potentially this week. They're coming up, blowing that game to the Bears. So in theory, it's a bounce back spot, but the Vikings did your job for you. You're in the playoffs. We saw last year they didn't really play after they had made the playoffs. They remember they lost week 18, and the Commanders ended up passing them. They had to go to Philly and lost to Philly instead of having to go play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which would have been an easier opponent in my opinion. So did the Packers really care about seeding? They haven't shown it in the past. And obviously, the Ravens are still alive to steal the NFC North because they play Saturday. The Steelers don't play till Sunday. If the Ravens win and the Steelers lose, Week 18 will be for the AFC North. If either the Steelers win or the Ravens lose, the Steelers clinch the division. So the Ravens must win. I didn't like the end of the Patriots game. I'm not going to lie. This isn't slam dunk take the Ravens, but Huntley looks good. But why was Derrick Henry had 128 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, and was not on the field for the last few minutes of that game? That's absolutely absurd. I don't know what's going on. He couldn't be stopped. New England defense had no answer for him. And he wasn't on the field. Instead, you got Rasheen Ali on the field for most of that. And I don't know if Keaton Mitchell, but it was mostly Rasheen Ali. Maybe he's the pass catching back, and that was their down 4, but there was lots of time. Derrick Henry's got to be on the field. Huntley was 9 of 10, 65 yards, dink and dunk offense. The Pats shut down the quarterback run game as soon as he came in. They wanted to make him throw the ball, and he did all right. Lamar Jackson's been injured for a while now, so I don't even is this even a downgrade? In my opinion, Huntley could be a little bit of an upgrade, not in terms of skill level, but in terms of motivation, leadership, some of these intangibles. I think the guys are going to get around, and he's going to, those hits that Lamar couldn't take because, he was injured, right? He couldn't take those runs. Huntley, if he sees the lane, he's going to go. The offense is very similar. So it can open up the offense a little bit with Tyler Huntley. I don't think it's a downgrade. I think it's probably a neutral, maybe 1 point. You can say he's not as good of a passer, but at the same time, he's a better runner than current Lamar Jackson, who wasn't playing well. So I grabbed 4.5. I still like it at 3.5. I think the Ravens, I'm not in love with the coaching staff, but the coaching staff on the other side, I don't trust either. Matt LaFleur and those guys over there. So I think the bad coach, the suspect coaching staff on both sides are a wash. Ravens need to win. Packers got the job done for them yesterday on Christmas. So I'm on the Ravens plus 4.5. And of course, for the show, I'll be on the Ravens plus 3.5. No opinion on the total. Because if the Packers offense works with Millis, we can see this get over 38.5. And especially if the Packers defense, is thinking about the playoffs and thinking about getting healthy. And I kind of think the Packers are, Jordan Love announced out, the Packers are thinking about the playoffs getting healthy, so I'd rather have the side. So Baltimore plus 3.5 here. Official play on Pieguys pick 'em. As we move along to the Sunday games, and this is a big one. Seattle Seahawks, Carolina Panthers. The Panthers, 7-point home dogs. The total 42.5. Sorry, misclick there by me. The Panthers, 5-1, both against the spread and straight up as home dogs. They have won 5. Oh, we have a timer on. That's what the problem is. I see. I see. All right. See, they got these new gadgets and gizmos on StreamYard here, and of course I just need the simple stuff. But anyways, as I mentioned, 5 outright wins as home dogs for the Carolina Panthers. Seattle, obviously, off the big win Thursday night football, the comeback win, the 2-point play, recovered by Charbonnet to tie the game, and then winning it in overtime. Sam Darnold was horrible. I wasn't horrible, but he's been, suspect. And all that's forgotten because they're the 1 seed right now. They win out. They win the division. They get the bye. Of course, they play San Francisco next week in San Francisco. If San Francisco were to beat the Bears, that game would be for the 1 seed. And the Seahawks were to beat the Panthers. I think the Rams, the only way they can win the 1 seed is if one of San Francisco or Seattle lose this week, and then whoever loses this week wins next week. But in that case, the Bears can still be the 1 seed. The 1 seed's still alive for 4 teams. So they have control of their destiny. The Sam Darnold was fantastic in the fourth quarter. The yards per play 6.6 each for Seattle and the Rams, but Seattle lost the turnover battle 0-3. The Rams had 4 sacks. Seattle 0 sacks on Stafford. Yet they found a way to win. Why? Special teams. Rashid Shaheed, big punt return touchdown, and Cooper Kupp, veteran on the team, former Ram, said, we never gave up one play. One play can turn a game. And these punt returns, I've seen this in the CFL. I remember a playoff game between the Ticats and the Argos where the Ticats got a big punt return touch. They look completely out of it, dominated, get a big punt return touch, and all of a sudden the momentum flips like that, even on the road. Special teams, and of course the missed field goal by the Rams helped them out too. Safety Kobe Bryant and tackle Charles Cross didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. We'll have to take a look at their status. I don't expect either of them to play. I can double check here really quickly. But yeah, that's the Carolina's pass rush isn't as good as the Rams, but and they're hurting to defensive end Tershawn Wharton and linebacker Trevin Wallace. They didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. Yeah, both Cross and Bryan are out. Both Wallace and Wharton are out. Offensive. Oh wow, big update here. Offensive tackle Robert Hunt, who has been hurt. The guard tackle Robert, who has been hurt all season. All of a sudden, he's questionable. He might play. That is a big coup for the Carolina Panthers if they can get him playing, because he's excellent, former Dolphin. It was an even game between the Bucs and the Panthers. The Panthers held their own in that game, and of course, what was the difference? Bryce Young, 2 touchdowns, 191 yards, no turnovers. Baker committed the game-losing interception. And Ted McMillan was fantastic. He had 73 yards and a touchdown. I believe he's the favorite now for offensive rookie of the year. So Robert Hunt being back, and not only that, the Panthers' record at home. Now, they're both coming off big wins, so I think that kind of cancels out. Seattle does have the rest advantage, but you have to travel to Carolina. It's not the shortest trip in the world, especially from Seattle. And you're missing your starting tackle, you're missing your one of your starting safeties and Kobe Bryant, both very good players. And especially Robert Hunt potentially. I think it was just a lean, but I am on the Panthers +7 now. I will bet it. And I will also bet the Panthers straight up because we've 5-1 straight. You got to take some money line. It's too many points. The Panthers are mediocre, but they're at home and they're catching 7, and they have a chance to clinch the NFC South with a win and a Bucs loss. And the way the Bucs have been playing, maybe they do, shit the bed again. Pardon my French. So I'm on the Panthers +7. I'm on the Panthers money line here. I'll medium-sized bets probably. Not too small, not too big. No more than a full unit combined between the two. But I don't know if I'll get to a full unit. But I will be on the Panthers here. The Robert Hunt news, that's under the radar stuff that if he plays, it makes a big difference. Because we've said Carolina needs to run sometimes to win. Robert Hunt can help the run game here. I think against Seattle, they might need to run to win. So Seattle's very good run defense, but last week Carolina didn't run the football very well. They still won the game. So, and Seattle again got San Francisco next week. So we'll see. All right, we move along here. Jaguars, Colts. Jaguars, 5.5, 6-point road favorites in Indianapolis. The total here is 48.5. Jags, massive win over the Broncos. They're technically alive for the 1 seed, but I don't know if it's going to happen. Jags win and a Texans loss will clinch them the AFC South, or the Jags can win next week. They play the Tennessee Titans, but it is a road. I believe it's a road game, so it's not a foregone conclusion, but they got 2 divisional games. Yeah, unless Houston slips up, they would have to win both. Obviously, I talked about the Colts are still alive, but they might not be still alive by the time this game kicks off because they need Houston. They need the Chargers to win on Saturday. So this is one of the games I'm going to talk about where I'm waiting, where I'm going to wait for Saturday results before I get involved. So the Jags outgained. The Jags were outgained by Denver in total yards and yards per play, but they won the turnover battle and they had much less penalties and they were 4 or 5 in the red zone. That vaunted Broncos red zone defense got cooked by Liam Cohen and this offense. 279 yards, 3 touchdowns for Trevor Lawrence, despite being sacked 5 times. He's playing the best football of his career right now. He's been excellent. He's probably winning. I know one person at least he's probably going to win their fantasy league this week because we saw how the Colts defense played last week. So you never know. It could be a little bit of a letdown. Parker Washington's return was noticed. 145 yards, 6 catches for a touchdown. Of course, with Sertan mainly focusing on Brian Thomas Jr. or Jacoby Myers to get Parker Washington, the 3rd wide receiver, started to go off here for the Jaguars. So again, I mentioned the Colts can be eliminated. However, if the Texans do lose Saturday, the Colts have their destiny in their hands because they play the Texans week 18. And that would be, as I mentioned, for the final wildcard spot. Phillip Rivers looked great against that horrible Niners defense. The Niners sold out to stop Jonathan Taylor and said, Rivers, you got to beat us. And oh boy, did he ever pick them apart. But special teams missed because of Amir Abdullah fumbled. Oh my goodness. Who would have thought? Mr. Fumbleitis himself. I can't believe that guy. I understand he can be a good kick returner, but that guy is a liability. We've seen it time and time again. This guy fumbles, and he's not my kick returner. If I'm a coach, that guy's off my roster. He wouldn't have even thought of being on the roster because yes, he can make an explosive play, but the downside is too great. Like the fumbleitis is the worst in football. You cannot be putting the football on the ground, especially if you're just a special teams player. I'll get a guy who can, I want the guy who does the little things right, and if he breaks one, he breaks one. But you can't be giving away possessions, and especially in a shootout game like that. DeForest Buckner and center Tanner Bortolini, tight end Drew Ogletree, and defensive end JT Tuimoloau all didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. I think Buckner will play if the Colts are alive. And right now, Phillip Rivers is the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. But should the Texans win on Saturday, I don't know if that's going to be the case, which is why what I will be doing if the Chargers do indeed win. Oh, Buckner's out. The center's out. Gold's out. Ogletree's out. And Richardson's out. Who cares? And safety Daniel Scott is also out, along with Tuimoloau. The JT, the defensive end. Not Jonathan Taylor. Ashton Doolin will make his return, though. So that's good news for the Colts. Another wide receiver, very deep wide receiver room for the Colts. So I like the over if it's Rivers. If it's Riley Leonard, I have nothing to do with this game. I'll probably just lay it with if it's Riley Leonard, you can probably lay 7-8 with the Jags. It'll be fine. I'd probably just wait for what happens on Saturday with the Texans. Well, but the thing is, because then the Texans lost, Jags win, Jags clinch the division, they can rest everybody next week, which I kind of think is what they want to do. So If the Texans win, oh no, that would be the Texans lost. So yeah, the Colts be live. Yeah, so if the Texans win and the Colts are eliminated, and it's Riley Leonard, Jags need to win to keep control of the division. So I'll probably bet Jags and Jags team total over split because I do like this over, but can't bet if it's Riley Leonard. If the Texans win, if the Chargers win, and it is indeed Phillip Rivers, I'll be on the over 49.5 because that means the Colts are alive. They will play Rivers. Rivers has been good. I think they can run a little bit in this Jags. And the Jags offense, the Colts defense, we saw Monday night. They ain't stopping this Jaguars offense. They couldn't stop the 49ers offense. I know might be the best offensive football right now, but this Jags offense is, it's in the elite status in their current form. So over if the Chargers win Saturday. If the Texans win Saturday, I'll probably look at Jags and Jags team total over because I don't think they might still start Rivers. So keep an eye on that. If they do still start Rivers, I'll still play the over. But I just want to, if the Chargers win, it's full go on the over. Because then it'll be Rivers. If the Texans win, keep an eye. Maybe I'll play Jags team total over. Maybe I'll play Jags if it's Riley Leonard. But if it's Rivers, I want this over. So keep an eye on Saturday's games. As we move along to Saints Titans, looked like it was going to be a tank bowl in the beginning of the season. Not so much. There's a bigger tank bowl later on in the card, a standalone tank bowl almost, which is wild. The Saints extended their winning streak 3 in a row for the Saints. They beat the Jets. 5.3 to 3.1 yards per play. Dominated the Jets, but they were 0 for 3 in the red zone. So red zone offense, a little bit of a struggle for the Saints. Brady Cook was horrible. The defense has been playing well. So I expect, he should have been bad. The way that defense is playing, and Brady Cook's no good. 2 of 15 they held the Jets to on third down, and 2 of 4 on fourth down as well. So good job on the defense. Shuck, 32 for 32 pass completion on 49 attempts, 308 yards, and a touchdown. They're banged up at running back. So Taysom Hill was basically their number one running back. They got Mason Tipton some carries, and they got this guy, Audric Estime, and Evan Hall also got some carries. So, because Devin Neal's on IR, and Kamara is questionable. I don't know if he's going to play. Cesar Ruiz also questionable heading into this one here. Could be a lot of Taysom Hill. This could be the Taysom Hill game, but I don't know. I mean, I think they want to make Shuck look good. I think they want to get comfortable, especially against a team like the Titans who are coming off a win. They got off the schneid. They beat the Chiefs 2 units. Easy money on the Titans. The first half was a little bit of a sweat, but other than that, the spread was never in doubt. It was either going to be tied, and the money line was going to push, or the Titans were going to score. And they scored, and it was an easy. And the second half, or the full game, looks for easy winners. But I'm not going back to them. Third string quarterback Chris Ludicon, who looked pretty bad yesterday as well. They still managed to get 12 penalties, these Tennessee Titans that are Mike McCoy. But Cam Ward looked good again, 21 for 28, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He's making the smart decisions. He's developing, I think, as a quarterback well. I think they have their guy going forward. Pollard had another 100-yard game. Good for him. Tajay Spears had 50 yards rushing and 50 yards receiving. So he's been a good, third down back, pass catching back. And Elik Ayomanor is back, the Canadian, 58 yards. Kamari Dike and Chigo Okonkwo both had receiving touchdowns. So, spreading the ball around. Overall, great game for the Titans. And they're pretty healthy outside of Calvin Ridley, who's on IR. So, look it up for the Titans, but the Saints are just better. I mean, Tyler Shucks has better weapons. He's got Olave. If Kamara plays, he's got Kamara. Let's take a look if there's an update on Kamara, but I think they'll be fine with Evan Hall, especially with Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill can be your starting running back essentially. So I don't know if Tony I don't know if Tony Pollard's going to no update yet. I don't know if Tony Pollard's going to have another 100-yard games against the way the Saints defense has been playing. So I think it's a cheap number. I know it's a road game with a rookie quarterback, but Titans are off a win. So that along with the Saints being the better team, it's not for me to lay 2.5 against the Tennessee Titans. You basically just need the Saints to win the game by a field goal, and you get your money. So Saints minus 2.5, again, smaller play. All right, let's run through a few of these a little more quickly. Cardinals, Bengals. Bengals 7.5 point home favorites. The total 52 or 53 now, 53 and a half. Going up. And I mean, you watch the Bengals last week. My goodness, the Bengals offense last week, absolutely fantastic. Making great catches, great throws by Joe Burrow, good running. And it wasn't, I watched some of that game. It wasn't that the Dolphins defense was bad or they'd quit or anything. They were playing well especially for the first half, but the Bengals offense, man, when they're clicking on all cylinders, they got T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. My goodness, how good are they? Joe Burrow saying T. Higgins set the tone in the game with the early touchdown, kind of got the guys going, and they went out and they whooped the Dolphins, which they're capable of doing. Yards per play we're actually pretty even. The Bengals got a little lucky. The defense got lucky. I mean, Quinn Ewers and the Dolphins at 6.6 yards per play. The Bengals defense wasn't any good in that game. It just they got a few lucky turnovers. I thought, good on them for executing, but there was a tip ball. There was the turnovers I thought were a little bit fluky. Dulcich, ball kind of slipped out of his hands. The Dolphins tight end. So in terms of the defense playing well, I don't know, but the offense was fantastic, which explains this total. The Cardinals can't buy a win. They cannot buy a win. They were up 10-0 against the Falcons, blew it again. Jacoby Brissett is mediocre, 16 of 31, 203 yards, touchdown, a pick. But they were averaging over 5 yards per carry on the ground, so the run game got going against the Falcons. They've now lost 7 in a row, despite 3 of them. One they lost by a field goal in overtime to the Jags. They lost by a touchdown last week. Another they get lost again by a field goal. So they've been in some of these games. Some of them they've been blown out though. So the Bengals play their A game. They're gonna blow the doors off the Cardinals by the way, if you want, I'd give you the Cardinal injury update, but we'd be here all day. You can go look at the laundry list of injuries. It's the same guys: Marvin Harrison Jr., half the offensive line, Kyler Murray. It's everybody's hurt. And one more thing: the Bengals 6 for 6 in the red zone, but the defense allowed the Dolphins and Quinn Ewers to go 2 for 2. So it was all offense that carried the Bengals last week. If you like Bengals, but the Bengals team total is going to be, what's this Bengals team total going to be? It's going to be really like 30, right? Yeah, 30 and a half. I had my share. This is a pass. If Arizona shows up, they can score on the Bengals defense. If the Bengals offense plays their A game, they're going to blow. And Arizona shows up, it's going to go flying over the total. If the Bengals don't show up, Arizona will cover and probably win outright. There could be who knows. I don't know who's showing up here because the Bengals are off a win. Arizona's off another terrible, heartbreaking loss. At some point there's going to be quit on both sides. So I couldn't tell you who's quitting this week, and so it's a pass. All right, Steelers, Browns. Browns 3-point home dogs. The total here 33.5, 34. Supposed to be rainy in Cleveland. A little bit of wind, but not too much. I think around 19 kilometers an hour. Yinzer Magic was in full effect at the end of that game. 2 offensive pass interference penalties to take it back. 2 touchdowns to give the Steelers the win. And now with a win here in Cleveland, they can clinch the AFC North. But both offensive pass interference were legitimate, but, they don't always get called. So a little bit of magic there. But in terms of deserving the win, 1,000,000%. They outgained Detroit 6.9 to 5.2 yards per play. They had 230 yards on the ground, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Detroit's 15. Shut them down completely. Net rushing yards. Gibbs was good in the passing game, but he got nothing going on the ground. Monty had, I don't remember. I think he didn't have very many yards either. 15 net passing yards. Steelers did lose a fumble. And they had 8 penalties, which almost enabled the Lions' comeback, but they managed to hold on. DK Metcalf, of course, took a swing at a fan. I don't know if it was, I don't know what, he went like this, whatever. He's been suspended for 2 games is the bottom line. I'm not going to give you any hot takes on that. Let that be settled by the parties involved. In terms of TJ Watt, he is limited for the first time since his surgery to repair his collapsed lung. Wide receiver Calvin Austin and cornerback Brendan Nichols didn't practice Wednesday, Thursday. Probably not going to play. Ramsey had an illness just on Thursday, Christmas Day, though. So maybe, Christmas flu. He's a vet player. Maybe he pulled a fast one. I could see that from Ramsey. Browns nearly beat the Bills. I mean, it's 23-20. Put in a good effort. And this line opened to Steelers 4.5. But the markets know the Browns are going to be chomping at the bit. Especially if the Ravens say, nah, you're not getting in the playoffs on our watch. The Browns and the Steelers, it's an old adage or an old cliche. I mean, there's no love lost. The Browns hate the Steelers. Because how many times? I think Ben Roethlisberger has more wins in Cleveland Browns Stadium than any Cleveland quarterback in the last few years. So, Shedeur Sanders will try to make a difference. He was good again, 20 of 29. 157 yards and a touchdown, but 2 interceptions. So, rookie mistakes popping up there. He was good he was the leading rusher. You don't really want to see that, especially against the Bills run defense that's very suspect. Again, this is a game where the Steelers could clinch the division on Saturday with a Green Bay Packers win over the Baltimore Ravens. So in terms of the side, can't make a decision there just yet. If the Ravens do win, I know Cleveland's at home and they're going to be chomping at the bit, and they're not going to lay down against the Steelers. But the Steelers are just playing well right now. I mean, the Steelers defense is very, very good against the Lions, shutting him down. That's 2 games in a row. Now, I've been impressed with the Steelers defense, the Dolphins game and the Lions game. And the offense with Aaron Rodgers is serviceable. It's definitely better than anything they had last year's Mason Rudolph and some of those other quarterbacks. But right now I do have a bet. I bet over 33.5. I mean, we saw this last week, 41.5 against the Bills. We got over that with the Browns. The Browns are actually, believe it or not, 8-7 to the over. So they're actually more overs than unders. So I'm not afraid to go to, especially with Shedeur Sanders. He makes plays. I could see him scrambling, even in the rain, scrambling for a big gain here and there. The Steelers, I know they shut down the Lions' run defense last week. We'll see what they do against the Browns run defense. I think the Browns can run here a little bit, and I definitely think the Steelers can move the ball on the Browns. The way the Steelers have been playing, especially running the ball. So I don't think the rain's going to come to play at all. This total look 33.5, but 20-14 cashes this over. So this is way, way too low. Again, in my opinion, for the Browns, they have not made an adjustment. Shedeur Sanders is better than Dylan Gabriel and whoever else they were offensively they were throwing out there. He's gonna, try to make plays. If he gets caught, if he turns the ball over, that's gonna be good for the over too. So over 33.5 Steelers Browns. Another official play here on Pieguys Pick'em. As we move along to our old friends, the New York Jets, their final home game of the season. They get to pay the Patriots again. The same spread we saw in New England, 13.5. The Pats found a way to come back and beat Baltimore. Drake May, everyone is, talking up his deep ball. It's very, very good. They would still need a Broncos loss next week to the Chargers, as well as winning out, being the Jets and the Dolphins, which they will be heavily favored to do, to get the 1 seed. So, and I believe I think if they win here, they win the division. I think I have to double. I think they have 13 wins. No, I just have to double check your AFC East standing. I think they're 2 games up. The Bills, aren't they? Oh, they're only 1 game up on the Bills. But the Bills lost to Minnesota. I don't know if a win here clinches it, but definitely if they win the next 2, they clinch. Or a win and a Bills loss. I have to look more into that. But they still need to win this game anyways to clinch up the division. So, but look at their injury report. Not the best. You got Kayshon Boutte, concussion. He's out. Mac Hollins has an abdomen injury. Jared Wilson, the center, he's got a concussion. He's probably not going to play. Carlton Davis, the cornerback, he's sick. A lot of limited participants, too. You take a look at the update in a minute here. They did struggle a little bit on 4 of 12 on third down in the pass. They get the big plays. We know they get the big plays with Drake May the deep ball and Travion Henderson in the run game. But, of course, Henderson left that game. 453 yards of offense, but again, struggling on 3rd and 4th down. So, and I think that's more coaching than it is the players on the field. In terms of the New York Football Jets, Aaron Glenn is lying through his teeth right now. He's telling the media Brady Cook gives us the best chance to win. Well, I'm telling you, Aaron Glenn, you're full of it because Brady Cook is nowhere near as good. I mean, maybe near as good as Jets Field, but he ain't the best option. He might not be the best option if he was in a room with, you might have some 40-year-olds working coaches that might be better quarterbacks than Brady Cook. It's hogwash as far as I'm concerned. The Jets are tanking. They're starting Cook because they want to lose these games. They've been given instructions from upstairs. Mason Taylor, the tight end, is out for the Jets. Everybody else that isn't on IR, like Wilson's obviously on IR. So other than that, everyone else is fairly healthy. The Jets are just, 3.1 yards per play. 2 turnovers, 0 for 2 in the red zone. That's your best option at quarterback. Give me a break. Hogwash. Brady Cook's bad. But at the same time, the Patriots, remember, we had the 13.5 spread last time. They won by 13. Well, I'm not betting the Jets, but at the same time, a lot of Patriots are nicked up. I can see them resting this game. The Patriots don't need to win by 14. They just need to win, get in, get out of town. It's Brady Cook. How hard are they really going to have to try? Does it really do them any service to bury Brady Cook and the New York Jets? Probably not. They've done it a million times before, so this is a pass. And we move along to the Miami Dolphins and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers 5.5, 6-point road favorites. The total here 44.5. If the Panthers were to beat Seattle, both games are at the same time. These are all 1:00 games. A lot of 1:00 games this week. If Carolina were to win and the Bucs were to lose in Miami, the Bucs would be eliminated from the playoffs. Any other scenario, and Tampa, Carolina, Week 18 decides the division. They played a fairly even game against Carolina, but Baker made the one mistake, the turnover, and they had 8 penalties, 56 yards. Todd Bowles, though, how many rookie quarterbacks has he faced this year? Another one? Quinn Ewers now. Here you go. Come meet the blitz. Tristan Wirfs didn't practice Wednesday and Thursday with a toe injury. It's the injury to watch. And Chris Godwin didn't practice. I think that this was 6 across the board yesterday. So this could mean that Tristan Wirfs is out. I could see that moving the line here. In terms of Quinn Ewers, he looked all right, but it was Tristan Wirfs out. But Godwin's going to play. And then a couple of other guys here. Linebacker Anthony Nelson and defensive lineman Kalijah Clancy out with a pectoral injury. So, a couple of injuries here for the Panthers. Obviously, Wirfs the biggest one. Quinn Ewers, the Dolphins have 389 yards of offense with him behind center, 6.7 yards per play. But again, against the Bengals defense, they can make, sometimes the Bengals defense can make Brady Cook look good. I don't know about that. That might be a stretch. But maybe Brady Cook wasn't on the Jets. But yeah, 2 for 10 on third down. Your quarterback's a rookie, right? And 1 of 2 on fourth. So 2 interceptions for Quinn Ewers. But again, I thought one of them was tipped. And, a little bit fluky interceptions, I thought. Greg Dulcich had a great game until he fumbled. And then Waddle was a limited participant. Is Waddle playing? Waddle is in. Waddle's in. Benito Jones, defense like he's out. Cornerback Isaiah Johnson. And, safety Minkah Fitzpatrick. So Baker might be able to pick these guys apart if the Dolphins can't get pressure, because Chop Robinson and those defensive linemen have really started to play well, the front 7 of the Dolphins. I know Burrow cooked them last week, but the way the Bengals played last week, like I mentioned, they would have cooked anyone. I can't lay 5.5 with Tampa on the road. I don't care if it's a bus ride to Miami from, I don't know how far that is, but a short flight or a longer bus ride. The way Tampa's playing, you can't lay 6.5 of them on the road right now. But at the same time, I don't want Quinn Ewers, a rookie quarterback, against Todd Bowles' blitz-heavy defense and his pretty good schemes. He's had a knack to really get these rookies off his game. So it's a pass, another pass for me. You're no good read on this one. All right. We move along to the only 4:05 game. There'll only be 2 games in the 4 o'clock window. This one and then Eagles Bills. So they want to. This is the ultimate tank pull here. The loser of this game is likely to get the number 1 overall pick. Currently, if the season were to, I think if everybody were to, like, everyone is in the mix were to lose, the Giants would have the number 1 overall pick. So big incentive for them to lose in the front office. But of course, we know front offices, fans may want to tank. Players and coaches are playing for their jobs. They don't want to tank. But at the same time, the Giants, they felt like they were more interested in killing the clock than winning the game last week. I mean, they were letting the play clock run down slow. 2.9 yards per play, 2 of 10 on third down, 1 of 3. It was a horrible offensive showing. Max Brosmer came in the game, and they still couldn't find a way to beat the Vikings. The defense was all right, though. They were 0 of 3 in the red zone. They had 13 net passing yards. They made Max Brosmer look good in comparison. 30 rushes to 13 pass attempts. Tackle Andrew Thomas and center John Michael Schmitz all didn't practice Wednesday and Thursday, along with safety Tyler Newman. Why would they play? The Giants want to lose. For us, sit down. This team is tanking. Okay, the way they were playing, running the clock, just they're just running the ball. They don't want Jackson Dart. He ran a little bit, but the way they played last week, they look like they're tanking the New York Giants. On the other hand, Vegas came to play last week, but the front office saw that and said, we can't have that. We can't win a game. Brock Bowers, you're on IR. You're shut down for the season. Because Brock Bowers probably beat the Giants by himself this week, the way they're playing. Max Crosby is the one to watch here. I've been waiting for updates all week. Excuse me. I've been waiting for updates for a while to see if Crosby is going to play. Wow. Apparently, the front office is trying to tank. Max Crosby reported breaking news here. He left the Raiders facility because they shutting him down. He is pissed. He wants to play. And I get it. Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, they're gonna play. Yeah, he's unhappy. Yeah, Johnny up didn't hear us in the chat. Genty had a pretty good game, 128 rushing yards, 1 touchdown, 5 yards per carry for him. Very good game. The run game. Obviously, Houston was flat. They outgained Houston by 1.5 yards per play. So, the Raiders are trying, and the front office, we can't lose this game because if we lose, or we can't win this game because if we lose, we get the number 1 overall pick. This is Max Crosby leaving the stadium tells me the Raiders want to lose. But what the Raiders want, the Raiders don't get. All right? I think Pete Carroll and Geno Smith are going to find a way to win this game. I'm on Vegas money line. I got a worse number. You can get plus 105 right now after they shut down Crosby. But, if I'm in that locker room, I'm playing for my job, right? With Crosby and Bowers, the only guys, and Genty, he's probably going to play. The only guys who have a job right now, like confirmed for this team, going into next year. Pete Carroll might not even be back, but I expect Pete Carroll team ain't going to quit. Okay? They're going to come out here and try to win the game, especially at home. And it's yes, their 2 best players are out. I understand that, but the Giants have an interim head coach, and he's a stooge at this point. He's going to do what he's told to do, and they're going to run the football until they're going to throw 10 times maybe. I don't think they're trying to win the game. But I think the Raiders will, and especially with Crosby leaving upset. I think the locker room's going to get behind me. No, we're winning one for him. Screw these morons upstairs. I get it. You want to tank, you want the pick, but the Raiders need a win. I mean, I know both teams have lost 9 in a row, but at least the Giants, it feels like they had some good momentum at the beginning of the season. There were some good things. Jackson Dart. Malik Neighbors got hurt. You have an excuse there. Next season, there's a little bit of hope. The Vegas needs a win. All right. They need hope in that locker room because it's been disaster after disaster. And they were so close last week. So I'm on Vegas. But at the same time, with all these, Brock Bowers out, the Giants trying to kill the clock. This is going to be an under 41.5. It's too high. I mean, with no Brock Bowers, and the Giants might not even be trying. They're trying to kill the clock. Like I said, if they play like they did last week, this is too. Even if the Giants play to win, and the Raiders play to win, 41.5 is probably, at worst, it's fair. It's a little high for these two teams. So I'm on under 41.5 as well. So Vegas, the worst game of the board, I got 2 plays. Vegas money line, Giants under 1.5. I'm interested to see how I think the Raiders respond. But at the same time, I don't think. But at the same time, how many points are they going to score without Bowers? And the Giants are trying to kill the clock. So Vegas and under for me. 2 bets on the tank pool. The bum fight. I got some looks here on the bum fight. So I might be watching this game for a bit, anyways. And here's the other game for the 4:00 window: Eagles Bills. Bills 1.5 point home favorites. The total 44.5. The Bills are coming off a ho-hum 23-20 win over the Cleveland Browns. They outgained the Browns 5.2 to 4.6 yards per play, but it was all James Cook. James Cook carried the offense. Josh Allen was basically shut down by the Browns defense. They cornered him in the pocket. Myles Garrett, was trying to break the record, of course, for the sacks. 2 of 8 on 3rd down. 0 of 2 on 4th down. The Browns defense really, this Bills passing game hasn't been working. It hasn't been working for a while now. I said it's double Shakir. The tight ends are hurt now, so who are you going to throw to? And then, you get gashed by 160 yards on the ground by the Cleveland Browns running game. That's not good at all. I mentioned we're gonna get a quick update here on the status of the Bills tight ends, because let's see, Dawson Knox is they're both questionable. Okay, they were limited today, so maybe some reinforcements there. Matt Prater, the kicker's out. Jordan Phillips, the defensive tackle's out. Safety Jordan Poyer's out. He doesn't matter as much as he used to. He looks bad out there. The Eagles coming off a win in Washington. They clinched the NFC East, booked their ticket to the playoffs. They dominated them, outgained it by 1.5 yards per play. Total yards, 385 for Philly, 220 for the Commanders. 3 of 3 in the red zone. 26 first downs to Commanders 15. It was domination. I mean, it was Mariota for most of the game. So, but at some point, Johnson came in. Hurts was pretty good, 22 of 30, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns. Will Shipley did fumble, but bad second string running back fumbles. Oh no. And A.J. Brown continues to play well, 9 catches for 95 yards. Jalen Carter should be back for this game. That's big because we saw what the Browns pass rush did last week to the Bills. Though A.J. Brown had wisdom teeth surgery this week, so I don't know if he's going to play. Lane Johnson remains out. Nakobe Dean, linebacker, remains out. Yeah, A.J. Brown's going to play. A.J. Brown does what A.J. Brown wants. I like the way Philly is starting to play. They got Barkley going a few weeks ago against the Raiders. He had another good game last week. The run game is starting to re-materialize for Philadelphia. So I like Barkley over 81.5 rushing yards in this game. The Bills' run defense has been horrible for weeks now. Can't stop anybody. Couldn't stop a guy running down the street right now. And at the same time, I don't think the Bills should be favored. I think Philly's the better team, and I think this should probably be maybe Philly -1. So I'm on the Eagles on the money line here. I know Buffalo's got more to play for, but I think this is the Philly dress rehearsal. And they're going to sit everybody next week. So this is the playoff dress rehearsal. They talked about it at the beginning of the season. How, you can't win in September. You can't win. They've been, slowly sort of matriculating along, getting wins, winning ugly. Now the playoffs are coming. I think Philly's going to ramp it up. So Eagles money line and Barkley over 81.5 rushing yards against this, subpar Bills run defense. As we move on to probably one of the bigger games. Probably maybe the biggest game on the board. Sunday night football, we got a good one. Bears, 49ers. Niners 3-point home favorites, total 52.5. This is another one where wait for the Saturday result, because if Baltimore wins, the Bears clinch the NFC North. If Green Bay wins, Bears still need one win, or Packers lost to Minnesota next week to win the NFC North. Bears coming off that massive comeback win. They did outgain Green Bay 6.7 yards per. They had 6.7 yards per play. I didn't write down what Green Bay had here. And Williams was sacked 0 times. So the offensive line of the Bears talked about all years playing well, and San Francisco our defensive line is a joke right now without Nick Bosa. The Bears were 2 of 11 on third down, 2 of 3 on fourth down though. 10 penalties, 105 yards. You can't have that in a big game like that. It was probably the biggest game most of them have played, and I understand they were a little bit nervous. But, they found a way to win. They recovered the onside kick. They kicked the field goal. They scored the touchdown. Of course, the dime to DJ Moore by Caleb Williams. Williams was good, not great. 19 of 34, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. Cluster injuries at wide receiver. Odunze remains. I think he remains out for this game. He didn't practice last I checked, but I think Luther Burden may return for this game for the Bears. Though, what's his name? Ja'Day Walker stepped up, catching the touchdown pass, of course, to tie the game late before DJ Moore won in overtime. TJ Edwards may also miss. Odunze's out. Edwards did practice today, so he is questionable. And defensive back Nick McLeod is also out for the Bears. No one else has been confirmed out. The 49ers offense looks like absolutely fantastic right now. It was good with Mac Jones. You get now your number one quarterback, Brock Purdy, who continually gets disrespected, but he's an elite quarterback in this league. He's back, and the offense looks even better. 6.7 yards per play, 440 net yards of offense, 28 first downs, 7-11 on third down, 1 for 1 on fourth down. The run game got going. They talked about that on the broadcast. The run game, the run game had been subpar for most of the season. But it got going against the Colts. 4 of 6 in the red zone. And the defense, they shut down Jonathan Taylor. That was the plan. The plan didn't necessarily work. When Amir Abdullah fumbles the ball like his usual self, the plan works. Big play on special teams, of course, recovering that fumble. But the defense was gashed through the air. Alec Pierce, 2 touchdowns. Phillip Rivers at 277 yards. They couldn't get pressure on him. I think they got to him once or twice, but couldn't really get pressure on him through that game. Continue to be a dead nuts over team. You see finally the adjustment, 52.5 here, the Niners total. George Kittle got hurt. I don't think he's going to play. I don't have an update on Kittle. See, George Kittle. I don't think he's going to play. I would be shocked if he plays. Game time. Okay, it's a game time decision. So maybe he does play. Again, let's see what happens in the early window. San Francisco controls their own destiny. If they win out, because even though I think they're the 6th or 7th seed. No, they're the 6th seed right now. If they were to win out, maybe the 5 or 6 seed right now. If the San Francisco 49ers were to win out, because they play Chicago and Seattle, 2 of the other teams who could get the 1 seed, and because they already swept the Rams, they would have all the tiebreakers, and they would win the 1 seed with the win over Chicago this week and a win over Seattle next week. However, 3.5 is too much. Again, you know what the show is. Pie Guys Pick. We love our Bears here this season. The Bears have been great to us. That was probably the best bet we had last year. It was the -4 against Carolina. Bears +3. Bears +3. There are some 3.5s out there, but as long as you can get a 3. If Green Bay wins the game Saturday, I will be on Chicago +3 here. Right. I think the Bears can move the football on the 49ers, and I actually think the Bears, I know they changed it up last week to more of a prevent defense because they got gashed by the Packers over the top a couple of times. I think their sort of high-risk turnover defense that to force turnovers is better or is a good matchup here against the San Francisco 49ers. And I think they can. The one thing with Purdy, you can get turnovers off him. So I do like the turnover heavy defense against the Niners. I think the Bears can get the turnovers here, and I think that can lead them to winning this game. But I'll take the 3 points in pocket just in case. Because if it's a shootout, like the Niners defense isn't stopping this Bears offense, like the Bears come out flat, which if Green Bay wins, I expect them to be focused. Plus they have the extra 2 extra days on the Niners in this game. That's right. I forgot about that. So it's a mini Widowmaker here for because 8 days for the Bears, 6 for the Niners. Okay, I'm betting the Bears, regardless if Green Bay wins on I'm gonna bet the Bears here. Bears +3. I just thought I forgot the Bears played Saturday and the Niners played Monday. This is like a small, this is a mini Widowmaker. Yeah. And the Niners, the Niners defense is bad. I don't really want to go against this offense, but it's the Bears, and like I said, I think the defense matches up well here. Meanwhile, I think the Niners defense, if you stop the run, Williams will gash you through the air. Like, I don't think they're going to sell it to the run like they did against Indy. And that means I think Monongai and Swift are going to have good games, which I think the Bears can get into the high 20s, low 30s here. So Bears +3, official play, Pieguy's pick, regardless of the outcome on Saturday, because of course, the vaunted Widowmaker spot, mini Widowmaker spot. All right. Final game of the slate, Rams-Falcons. Rams 8-point road favorites. The total here, 49.5, 50. Special teams gaffes cost the Rams against the Seahawks. We talked about the missed field goal, the big punt return. They have fired their special teams coordinator. I didn't write down what his name was, but he's fired. And of course, if both San Francisco and Seattle win, the Rams will not be able to win the division or the 1 seed. But if they both lose or something weird happens, right? They both lose. They might still be eligible for that 1 seed. But at that point, the Bears, I believe, if they were both to lose, the Bears beating Detroit next week would give the Bears the 1 seed. So it's going to be tough for the Rams to get the 1 seeds because San Francisco playing both the Chicago and Seattle. But on the box score, the Rams dominated outside of yards per play and of course special teams. 4-0 sacks in favor of the Rams, 581 yards of offense. The one the turnover battle 3-zip lost outright. Why? Special teams. Raheem Shaheed on a punt return touchdown that flipped the game, and then a missed field goal late that enabled the game to go to overtime. And Sam Darnold finally, had one of his shining moments of his career. Nakua being an idiot again, calling out the referees. Just, somebody should take his just. I understand you like posting on social media, this, that, and the other. Do that in the off season. All right, you don't shit talk the referees because now you're not getting any calls. Like this guy's wrapping his mouth, let your coach do it. The coach does it's a different story because there's a layer of separation. Oh, the coach is calling out the refs, right? But that's fine. The coach, that's his job, right? The coach is going to be hard on the refs because he's not the guy being fouled. You're the guy being fouled. If I'm Atlanta, I'm got my hands all over Nakua this week. He ain't getting no calls. But we'll see. We'll test the waters. But will Raheem Morris and his infinite wisdom be able to figure that out? Probably not. Devontae Adams didn't practice Thursday. Neither did offensive tackle Eric Jackson, guard Kevin Dotson, or defensive end Braden Fisk. And as well as cornerback John. So 5 DNPs, all meaningful ones for the Rams. Obviously, this game's not until Monday, so we don't have final injury reports today. The Falcons have been playing all right with Cousins under center. Drake London came back. He was, he wasn't the feature in the offense. He's probably going to be on a snap count if he plays again. The They were outgained by 1 yard per play by the Cardinals, but they had 8 more first downs, 3 of 3 in the red zone. Kirk Cousins is the dink and dunk specialist. Of course, he's good in the red zone. Falcons 4-0 as road dogs against the spread. They're home dogs. They're 1-1, so 5-1 as underdogs against the spread overall. Algier and Robinson splitting carries, but Bijan had 92 yards receiving and a touchdown, I believe. 7 catches for him. And Cousins, the dink and dunk offense, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He only had, I think, less than 200 yards. All dink and dunk from Kirk. So it's a Rams spot. I mean, they're off the Thursday. It's a long time to think about that loss. But the number's too big. Like they shouldn't be 8-point favorites on the road. But at the same time, I can't step in front of the Rams. There's just no way. I'm like, they might bury Atlanta here. Especially with Raheem Morris on the other side. The coaching mismatch here. It's the size of the United States of America right now. The coaching mismatch between Sean McVay and Raheem Morris. So it's a pass. I can make cases for both sides because the Falcons, they get too many points. They've been feisty, but at the same time, the Rams are pissed and they can bury teams and they can score in punches. And Kirk Cousins, he's 1 hit away from being out for the season. So that's the show. Pieguy 971 on Instagram and YouTube. Check me out, subscribe, like the video, all of that good stuff. What is my best bet gonna be? It's a tough one because I like that Colts over, but I need to know Rivers is playing, so I don't know if we want to go back to the well with an over. We could take the Browns over. All right. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't think Vegas is the best bet. Oh yeah, nothing really has a full unit on it here. There's nothing I really feel like. Yeah, we'll go back to the well. Why not? Another Cleveland over 33 and over 33 and a half. Steelers Browns just too low. It's too low. Cheap total. Yeah, it's gonna be raining, but the Steelers offense has been working well lately. There could be some turnovers, of course, on both sides, and Shadur Sanders is much more likely to score points this Browns offense with Sanders than they had been with any of the other guys, except maybe Flacco, but he's been traded for a while. So over 33 and a half, Steelers Browns, Pieguy's best bet for week 17. Thank you all for watching. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you again week 18. It's going to be another light card. The unit size is going to be lower. But we did well yesterday with the Chiefs and the Broncos. So, we're still finding winners, even with these weird cards. So, tune in next week, Friday again. And I'll see you then for another edition of Pieguy's Pick'em. Goodbye.